The City of Phoenix holds community budget hearings throughout April, allowing residents to comment and make suggestions on the city manager's trial budget before final decisions are made. This public discussion is among the reasons the city's budget so closely matches the community's highest priorities each fiscal year.
Good evening. My name is Milton Mahoney. I'm the Assistant City Manager for the City of Phoenix. I would like to welcome everyone out to our budget hearing this evening. We do have an interpreter in the rear. I'd like to give her the opportunity to introduce herself, please.
I'm Alex, and if somebody needs Spanish translation, please let me know.
Thank you for being here. First off, before we get into the details and talking about the outline of the evening, I'd like to give Councilwoman Kate Gallego an opportunity to make some opening remarks.
Thank you all for joining us. I want to thank the city employees who gave up their evening to be here with us. None of the city employees get extra compensation for being here, so on behalf of the council, thank you for being here to participate and listen to what the community has to say. I want to thank everyone who's given up their evening, our citizens, to be here. These are very important in determining our city's priorities. And it's great to see so many leaders from the community, from our boards and commissions who are here. Excited to have one of my predecessors on the city council here with us, who I think will be speaking. So welcome, Councilman. We have Tony Canny from Mayor Greg Stanton's office here today, his senior policy advisor, as well as our District 4 and District 8 chiefs of staff, who are both here as well. So looking forward to hearing what feedback people have on the budget, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. This is one of 17 different budget hearings that we're holding around the city. This happens to be the only one that we're holding this evening. Tomorrow there are 3. These meetings will conclude on April the 20th. If you haven't picked up a budget tabloid outside at the outer desk, we invite you to do that. If you want any further details about the proposed budget, please go to phoenix.gov/budget, and you'll be able to get some additional information. If you are here and you want to speak this evening, we ask that you fill out a speaker card. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes when we get to that point to make your comments. Since this is being taped, we're asking speakers to step to the microphone in the center of the room so the camera person can pick you up. This will be available on Phoenix 11 and also on YouTube. In terms of how the evening will go, we will first show a budget video that'll last about 10 minutes. And after that, we will go straight to the speaker cards. In terms of the manager's trial budget, essentially what we have is a budget that's balanced. It preserves the existing services that we have, and we're adding a few important services because we do have a small budget surplus available. This trial budget also includes capital improvements for city infrastructure. It is focused on public safety, including parks and homeless outreach. Your feedback to us is important, and that's why we're moving around the city in order to engage the public. I also would draw your attention to my immediate left is our Budget and Research Director, Jeff Barton. And so if you get a really complicated question, we will turn to him and ask that he help respond. So with that, I would ask that we show the video.
And welcome to your first look at the City of Phoenix 2017-18 trial budget. The City of Phoenix wants to hear from you. Your ideas can help shape the budget each year. The final budget provides the plan for how the city will spend taxpayer money on key services you want and need, like police, fire, transit, city parks and swimming pools, libraries, youth and education, graffiti prevention, arts and culture, and help for seniors, and how they all could be impacted. The 2017-18 Phoenix City budget is balanced as required by state law and city charter. In this trial budget, the city is preserving the services our residents value. Out of the $1.2 billion general fund budget, there is a small $1.9 million surplus. This video will present proposals on how to use these funds. So here's how the city's budget breaks down. There are three sources: the general fund, enterprise fund, and special revenue fund. Let's start with the general fund. 3/4 of the general fund is for police, fire, courts, with the remaining 25% going for everything else like libraries, parks, senior services, arts, and administrative and support functions. Enterprise fund departments include aviation, water services, solid waste services, and the convention center. Special revenue funds come mostly from dedicated taxes that must be used for a specific purpose. For example, the Phoenix Parks and Preserves Initiative, also called 3PI, or Transportation 2050. That funding goes for transit, light rail, and streets. Under the strong leadership of the mayor and city council, we are glad to say the budget is balanced. Phoenix employees strive every day to work smarter, save money, and serve our customers. That includes making sound financial decisions, like keeping our credit rating strong, spending within our means, and looking for savings to use for important community services. Now let's take a look at the recommendations for additions to the budget for next fiscal year. In the general fund, there is a little less than $2 million extra, plus some opportunities to use funds differently to add service. First, adding 16 civilian police assistants. They will take over some administrative duties, freeing up officers so the officers can respond to emergency calls.
So adding police assistants to our existing staffing resources is going to do a couple of things. It's going to get our first responders back on those priority calls for service faster and increase our service delivery to our community.
Next, focusing on homelessness in our city. The plan is to create more outreach teams by eliminating 6 vacant positions in the Human Services Department. This would free up about $500,000 to send teams of outreach workers to homeless residents on the street to connect them with services and a place for shelter.
These services are critical to the city. These professional outreach teams will work hand in hand with our community partners, neighborhoods, police, to bring these really important services to a very vulnerable population.
For the library, there are 2 recommendations. Contract savings would make security at Burton Bar Central Library permanent, and the other is to create more opportunities to engage kids in educational programs. Now, that leaves about 1/3 of the surplus untouched. So the proposed budget calls for strategically setting aside that funding, about $641,000, into a rainy day fund. The intent is to offset a potential deficit in the 2018-19 budget, which was projected in the city's 5-year forecast. Okay, time now to get back to the 2017-18 budget proposals. Let's look at the enterprise funds. These services are funded with user fees, with the exception of the Phoenix Convention Center. The budget calls for putting a new emergency operations center and ambulance at Sky Harbor International Airport. This would ensure that if anyone at the airport needs medical attention, they can get to the hospital quickly from Sky Harbor. Next, the solid waste funds pays for our trash collection and recycling services. It's proposed to add 8 positions to enhance worker safety and increase collections. Perhaps you've heard of the Reimagine Phoenix campaign? This is all part of support for the goal from mayor and council to divert 40% of what ends up in our landfills by the year 2020 through recycling, composting, and education. Okay, now to other restricted funds, which are dedicated to specific services. The Phoenix Parks and Preserve Initiative Fund comes from a 1/10 cent tax to support our world-renowned parks system. To support safe use of our parks and preserve system and public safety, the trial budget would add 22 new park rangers. This would extend trailhead hours and provide additional support at flatland parks around the city.
By adding rangers, we can extend the park hours at specific locations by 2 additional hours, which means that instead of hiking in the heat of the day, you can hike a little bit later. You can drive actually into the trailhead and continue your hiking later into the evening while it's still a little bit cooler.
13 of the new park rangers would be assigned to the city's more heavily visited locations, including North Mountain, Piestewa Peak, South Mountain, and other trailheads like Echo Canyon, Cholla, and Lookout Mountain. The other 9 would be assigned to flatland parks.
Additional rangers in our community and flatland parks provide that extra layer of customer service that we currently don't have. And it'll provide an opportunity for people to get education or learn more about what's going on in the parks and just provide that extra layer of enhanced customer service.
Also included would be funding to maintain 2 new dog parks, one at Reach 11 and the other at Deer Valley Park. From the Transportation 2050 funds, the budget calls for expanding service on some of the busiest routes around the city. It would also increase weekday midday frequency on routes serving Thomas and Camelback roads. And from the Development Services Fund, the proposal is to add several positions to keep up with increased building permits and inspections due to economic growth. Also, to increase and enhance communication and continue our efforts to streamline processes. One last important update is on the hiring of more police officers and firefighters. The city is on target to meet its recruiting goals of 3,125 officers and 1,615 firefighters.
This budget that we're talking about now includes the addition of roughly 250 officers next year, getting us to our sustainable goal.
So it's important for us to keep the public safe and live within our means. In 2009, our public safety funds were significantly in a deficit. To avoid layoffs and to balance the budget, we stopped hiring. By 2015, we were back, and we've been hiring police officers and firefighters since then.
While we're down from our peak level of staffing in the police department, we're also significantly down in our calls for service to the department. Over the last few years, as population and calls for service have increased, we're also fortunate to return to hiring officers.
So we've been recruiting in-state for a long time, but now we have that extra effort to be able to go out-of-state to recruit. What an amazing opportunity to increase the number of people that we find and can look for to build our staffing here in the Phoenix Police Department.
It allows a safe, effective response to whatever emergency is happening in the city of Phoenix. So whether it's a heart attack, if it's a house fire, structure fire, if it's a mountain rescue, is that by having 4-person staffing, it ensures adequate, safe response to meet whatever needs we encounter.
Now keep in mind, this year's budget hasn't been adopted just yet. Your input is important, and the City of Phoenix wants to hear from you on what the upcoming budget should look like. So to recap a few highlights, the 2017-18 trial budget calls for 16 new police assistants to free up sworn officers from administrative work, 22 park rangers, which would allow some trailheads to be open longer during the summer, eliminating 6 vacant positions to free up money to expand the city's homeless outreach. Again, this is a balanced budget with some money set aside as a head start for future use. 17 public hearings will take place this month across all council districts, and you are encouraged to attend. Make sure you pick up a budget pamphlet outlining all the proposals and options at any of the public meeting or online at phoenix.gov/budget. You can also send your comments or questions to budget.research@phoenix.gov, or to reach us by phone, please call 602-262-4800. You can also comment on social media by using #PhoenixBudget. Thank you for your interest in the City of Phoenix budget and being a part of the budget process.
So thank you for being here tonight. I'm Vice Mayor Laura Bastor, and I'm glad to be here and listen to your comments. As you can see in our budget, there are some items that have been allocated with the surplus that we have at this moment. I just wanted to caution everybody because we're not really talking about it. But 2018, 2019, we are going to be facing a deficit of $63 million. And so I think this conversation as we start, we need to talk about, because $63 million means a lot of services. It also means a lot of jobs. And so I just want to start that conversation. I think it's great that we're having this conversation, but I want to start in the future having the 2018-2019 budget, because I'm really concerned with that. I'm really concerned of what we're going to do and how we're going to generate revenue within our city. So I hate to be the Debbie Downer in this, but I think that's what we're dealing with, and that's what reality is right now. Councilwoman Gallego will open it up.
Our first speaker is Craig Tripkin.
The advantage of arriving early. Thank you, council members and city manager and Jeff. I appreciate your patience, and I appreciate you doing all these hearings. I'm here representing homeless people and representing Central Arizona Shelter Services. I need to tell you a couple things. Number one, CAS, Central Arizona Shelter Services, we've been providing services for 30 years, and we are, as far as I'm concerned, the gold standard, and we're the largest shelter in the state. We are facing a critical financial situation of our own. We're looking at a deficit, an operating deficit, if we don't cut significant programs, of $200,000 for the next year. Most of that is just plain increased cost. It's minimum wage, it's health insurance, which is going up by pushing 30% right now, utilities, other things. And we're down $200,000 over where we were a decade ago or 8 years ago from the city of Phoenix. So we're, even with, in fact, that $200,000 includes a private fundraising goal which is 30% higher than what we have today, going from 600,000 to 800,000. So we have a critical operating deficit, and we need some help from the city, very simply put. Secondly, and I think this is, I don't want to get too technical on this, but it's important, every bed we have is filled, and no matter how many beds we have on campus, they would continue to be filled. We have currently a caseworker, or a client to caseworker number of 50 to 1. The national standard is 20 to 1, and you know, we can quarrel about who sets those standards, but the reality is, if we are going to free up beds for the outreach program, and if we're going to do a better job with the people we have, we've got to increase our caseworker, or we've got to make better our ratio, decrease actually our ratio of clients to caseworkers, and we'd like to, we're hoping to sort of meet halfway on that and try to get it down to 40 to 1 from 50 to 1, which would take about additional $200,000. And those are critical needs. And I will tell you, an important piece of this is associated with the outreach program, which I applaud with the city. I think it's important. But you know, if we're going to see people. I don't need to tell you, homeless people, they're all over the map in terms of, there's mental illness, there's drug abuse, there's both, there's people who are down on their luck, there's a whole series of situations that create a homeless person. The outreach program will get to know these people and will encourage them to come in and get services. When they come in and get services, we have to have beds for them. We have to have a place for them to be. And in order for that to work, we need to, going back to the caseworker ratio, we need to improve our caseworker ratio so that we can move people out faster out of CAS. And in that way, we can free up some beds so that when a person, when the outreach program finds people who do want to get help, and we all know that there are people who want to get help and people who don't want to get help, but when they manage to convince somebody to come in and get services, we need to have a place available for them, and that's an important part of that, which is lowering our caseworker ratio client to caseworker ratio that we've got, and that's a piece of it. I'm done? Okay. I could have gone on. Thank you.
There's 3 minutes allotted per speaker to allow as many people as possible to speak. Donna Reiner.
Mr. Tripkin, I have the unenviable position of following you today. I'm Donna Reiner. I happen to live in District 4, yes. And I also am a member and a board member of the Friends of Phoenix Public Art. So this particular nonprofit entity is fairly new, but we are here to educate the public about the city's public art and its collection, and advocate for its maintenance and preservation of the public art that the city has so wisely invested in over 30 years now. And we also are aiming to raise funds for many of these purposes, particularly large ticket items. So first off, I want to say thank you for continuing to include the additional $25,000 that you included the previous year in the budget for maintenance. That means we're up to $75,000. The annual budget necessary is about $100,000. So if I'm going to make one ask, we're asking that if in that surplus later on, and things maybe get a wee bit better, if you could give us $25,000 more in the budget for the maintenance of the city's public art. It's one of those things, pay me now or pay me later a whole lot more. Kind of remember that ad? The Friends are dedicated to raising funds for big ticket items. In the future, we will need a new net for an installation for Her Secret is Patience, and there are many other large ticket items and that will come up in the future. So that's one of our projects. Just so you know, we're looking at those particular large projects. And we do have a list of all sorts of public art that is in every district. So, Madam Vice Mayor, we have some particular ones that could use some help. Just as an example, there's the wall cycle to Ocotillo. There's 7 sculptures, and the estimated cost of repair is $178,000, just so you know. The bridge, which was named after your father, we can use additional funds to help coordinate the graffiti and the debris cleanup, which is continual. And then there are 2 other ones that are on McDowell. We don't have the estimated cost at the moment, but those are just samples merely in District 4. Ms. Gallego, I forgot to bring yours, okay? But we do have them. You know. You've got other sources. Okay. So I just want to let you know that if you have that extra money, and I believe in a rainy day, we're asking only $25,000 more for the maintenance, which is that's a bake sale. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. John Walker.
Hi, good evening, and thank you for hearing our comments. I'm here on behalf of the Phoenix spokespeople and their roughly 2,500 supporters, and I'm here to ask today that the city continue to allocate an appropriate amount of funding for bicycle infrastructure. I think it's good for Phoenix for several reasons. Improvement of safety of people getting around town. We at Phoenix spokespeople are firmly of the view that just putting a painted bike lane really in most circumstances isn't enough, and we're asking the city to seriously look at putting in more infrastructure, for example, separated bike lanes A phrase that I think is important is 8 to 80. And that means that if you see a street that you don't think would be appropriate for an 8-year-old or an 80-year-old to ride their bike on, then there's something to be desired in terms of infrastructure for that street. And I think short of some residential streets, most streets in Phoenix wouldn't fit that wide allowance of cyclists to ride. There are certainly benefits for the health and environment. The Fit Phoenix initiative goes hand in hand with increasing cycling infrastructure and cycling in the city, and helping or assisting the situation with pollution in large part caused by vehicles and vehicle travel in the city. It's, I think, important for the economy. You can fit a lot more bikes in parking, and especially in the central downtown area. That's become really important. And the livability. There's thousands upon thousands of new residences, living units in the downtown area, and everyone getting around by cars is simply not an option. So providing that appropriate infrastructure would encourage people to ride their bikes to get around. There is, I think, a lot of community support. I think a good example is the Oak Street improvement project that's going on in large part through Coronado neighborhood, just next to us here in my neighborhood. And at the community meeting, the open house in February, there were a large number of people. Almost everyone was very enthusiastic about the proposed improvements, and a supplemental improvement that one of the residents has submitted to the city that we support in a couple of days got a couple hundred signatures on change.org, a petition that he'll be submitting to the city. And in fact, since yesterday, as I was at another budget hearing, they've gotten 50 more signatures. So and that's just from that Coronado neighborhood primarily. Phoenix spokespeople, we've been working and asking the city for better infrastructure about 4.5 years. It's been a little bit slow in coming, but I certainly can understand the infrastructure part of it, and street maintenance and the cycle of building can take some time. But I'm really hopeful that coming in the future we can begin to see bigger projects. I know 3rd and 5th Avenue is making its way forward. 3rd Street. I was a little disappointed to hear that construction probably won't start this year. It'll probably start next year. So I think that's unfortunate, but I just want the city to know how important it is and how important we feel it is, and I certainly hope the city continues to support putting that infrastructure in. Thank you. Do you mean with protected bike lanes, or yeah, with the contraflow? Is that what?
I didn't hear contraflow, so I was like, do you want contraflow or do you want cycle track?
We don't. If you're referring to the 3rd Avenue portion, our ideal situation would be a cycle track going north. We think that's the best situation. It's less confusing. It's better for that particular street, so we definitely support that. Thank you.
My name is Franklin Marino, and I'm wearing 3 hats tonight. First and foremost, I'm a resident of the city of Phoenix. I happen to live in District 2, so I own a home, I pay taxes, and I vote. I'm also a city employee. I'm a 22-year-plus veteran of the Phoenix Police Department. And I'm also secretary of the Phoenix Law Enforcement Association, the union that represents rank-and-file Phoenix police officers and detectives. And while I think it's great that we're going to hire 16 police assistants to help take calls, when you divvy up the numbers and you figure out how many are going to the different precincts, that's going to give us 2 bodies per precinct. And depending if they're going to work a 4-10 schedule or a 5-8 schedule, they're either going to work 4 days a week or they're going to work 5 days a week. And then we don't know what shift they're going to work. Is one going to be on day shift? Is one going to be on second shift? Or are they both going to be on the same shift? The bottom line is that right now, when you look at staffing of the police department, we are seriously understaffed. Currently, if you count the new officers in training, we have 2,773 sworn officers, from the lowest person on the department all the way up to the chief. Now, one of the things, they want to bring us up to a staffing level of 3,125 by 2018. The problem with that is that back in 2008, it's 263 less officers than what we had, which at the time was 3,388. So how did this happen? This happened quite simply because the city leadership decided to balance the budget on the backs of public safety by not hiring police officers. And now, not only are the police officers paying the price, but the citizens are, because we're working shorthanded. When citizens call 911 on an emergency call, which would be a crime in progress, like a kidnapping, an armed robbery, someone kicking your door down, trying to get in your house, it's taking an average of 7 minutes for an officer to respond. Now, that's an average for the city, okay? Now, the other thing that we have to realize is that Phoenix is 530 square miles. We've got a lot of open desert, we've got mountain ranges, canals, freeways, so there's a lot of obstacles in the way. So because of distances, we've talked to some officers out in the field that are telling us response times are anywhere between 15 up to 20 minutes, depending on where they're coming from. And again, we're spread shorter and thinner. We've been doing more with less for years. So what I'm asking is that the council find the money to continue to hire. We plea that based on the International Association of Chiefs of Police figures, that we should be staffed at 2.5 officers per 1,000 citizens, which would bring us up to 4,000 officers top to bottom. Now again, that would allow us to efficiently and safely patrol the city the size that we are. Now we look at it this way. Phoenix bills itself as a world-class city. We just had the Final Four, we got raving reviews. Well, if we want to be a world-class city and we want to remain a world-class city, we can't have third world public safety. So I would encourage you to continue to hire and bump up the program to keep our citizens safe as well as keep our officers on the street safe. Thank you.
Abraham James filled out a card not wishing to speak. He says, thank you for all you do for the citizens of Phoenix. Thanks for being supportive of arts and culture, library, parks, youth center, senior centers. Thank you. Mr. James for his service on several city commissions. Randy McDonald.
Hello, council members. My name is Randy McDonald. I live in District 4. I'm a member of the Phoenix Commission on Arts and Culture. And I want to start by thanking the City Council for the support that you have given to our arts and culture programs. I think we have some really first-rate production companies. For instance, we have some really great public art programs, and I thank the Friend of Public Art who already spoke. Those create some really great spaces for our citizens to come and just enjoy. I also wanted to put in a plug for some of those production companies that I spoke about earlier. Councilwoman Pastor, the Arizona Opera Company has a space that the city has helped them build in your district, and the Arizona Ballet has a space that the city has helped them build in Councilwoman Gallego's district. And both of those production companies are really first-rate. They bring people in from all over the region and the state. The Arizona Opera Company, for instance, has just recently done its very first world premiere. It did an adaptation of Zane Grey's Riders of the Purple Sage that was beautiful, and I think it is uniquely something that an Arizona opera company should be doing. So I want to thank you again for your support of the arts in the past, and I want to put a bug in your ear that you keep supporting those sorts of things in the future. So thank you very much.
Hi, good evening, council members. My name is Ben Henderson. Recently, I lived in both District 4 and District 8. First off, I just wanted to thank you both for being here and for these budget hearings. It's really is an exciting opportunity to be able to voice our concerns directly to you. The other thing I want to do is thank city staff for really proposing a very responsible budget. It's a very forward-thinking budget, and clearly there's been a lot of thought and effort put into it. The investments in public safety, the investments in homelessness, and the fiscal responsibility related to the rainy day fund. Primarily, though, budgets are they're policy documents as much as they are technical documents, and they really set kind of the forethought for where we want to be as a city in the upcoming future. And what I'd like to do is talk to you about the economic impact of the arts and culture. I am a member of the Arts and Culture Commission. And I could give you a lot of statistics on this, but what I'd like to do instead is tell you a little story. I used to work in economic development, and about a year and a half ago, I went to the city of Seattle and met with the economic development staff of the city of Seattle. And this was at a time when businesses like Microsoft and Amazon were moving in and opening up and expanding. The job growth was off the charts. They had about 100 people a day moving to that city. And so I asked the economic development staff, what do they do to create the kind of environment that leads to that kind of growth? Usually, especially living in Arizona, you might hear something about tax incentives or something like that, and that wasn't their answer. Their answer is, well, we invest in education, we invest in arts and culture, and really we're focusing on a quality of life. And so what I ask you to do is, given your responsible budget as you keep thinking forward into the next few years, that you consider that it's just as much a policy document as is anything else, and the investment in the arts and culture isn't just for those few individuals that benefit. It really does benefit the quality of life here across the city. That's really all I wanted to say today. Thank you very much for your time.
So, first thing I want to start off with, I can't believe that no one said that you were the spokesperson for the spokespeople. I can't believe you missed that joke. So, all right. All right. I'll be here all week, folks. So thanks for the opportunity to be here tonight, and it's great that both of you can be here tonight together. And, you know, really, big number for me is 7. It's 7 minutes for response time. It's 7 minutes or 7 people on an average squad in the city right now. Both of those are really troubling issues for the police department and for the people that they serve. When in 2014 I worked with, I guess it was then Commander Kurtenbach and now Chief Kurtenbach on the reduction of precincts from 8 down to 7, 6 plus the standalone downtown unit. And we were told at that time that we were doing that because we were going to try to improve our response times. And, you know, we had a general problem with it, but we understood that the police department could only deal with the resources that they were given. Since that time, the numbers have just gone up in response times. That 7-minute average is an average. It continues to go up. The ideal squad size is about 12, let's say 12 people. Right now it's averaging 6.9, closer to, you know, about 7. So basically what that means is that people cannot take vacations when they want to. They cannot lead their lives outside of the police department. When they're working, they can't operate. As important as it is for them to deal in their own lives, in addressing what happens in our lives is also really important, and what we hire them to do. We hire them to be there for us. To have 7 people on these thin squads that are covering more territory than they did in 2014 is really a problem and needs to be addressed. In the video, it was mentioned that the calls for service are way down. My understanding is that that does not include self-initiated calls for service. When you include that self-initiated calls for service, I think it's about 100,000, so it bumps it way up. So I really have a problem with how those numbers are presented, Jeff. You know, we talked about the hiring freeze. In addition to that hiring freeze that helped the city save money, public safety workers voluntarily took that cut of 6.2%. They have still not recouped that cut in their salaries yet. That's going to happen this year. If you take that same dollar from 2009 and look at the purchasing power today, it's 85% of what it was in 2009. So they have sacrificed for the city. The other issue, it was mentioned in the video about the 31, on track to hit the 3125 recruiting goal. by 2018, I don't see how that happens. If we're going to try to, that means that we have to hire 352 more. I don't see how that happens. We talk about hiring 250 per year. Let me finish the sentence, please. To hire that 250 per year, you're not including the number of retirees. And in the past 3 years, that has averaged 151 personnel for the past 3 years. And then if you go back the past 7 years, it's 123. So we're only getting a net of about 70, 75, according to those numbers. I don't think it is accurately reflected in their goal to get there by 2018. Bottom line, please hire more cops, find a way to do it. I understand we need more revenue. Everybody understands that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity. I have 3 areas that I'd like to mention tonight. First of all, given the growth and expansion of the city limits and the current number of police officers, it's no wonder that our response time has increased. At one time, we had 8 graffiti detectives. Now we have 2. Yet Phoenix continues to spend $2 to $3 million or $3 to $4 million every year painting over or cleaning up graffiti. Studies have shown that entry-level crimes, when they are allowed, whether it's for any reason, including a lack of police officer, it only serves as a gateway to other criminal and increased criminal activity. Let's finally address the issue of retirement and move on to hiring more officers, please. And secondly, repair upon repair upon repairs, but not fixing the problem is really not efficient. Not having the water department coordinate with the street department when the water department has finished with a temporary patch so the street department can put a permanent patch on is a problem. As is the temporary patches that have this ability, as soon as the water department leaves with a temporary patch, it starts to sink. It's a real problem. I'm getting a little tired of seeing all these what used to call hubcaps or wheel covers on the side of the road where someone hits the dip and off flies their wheel cover. I would appreciate if we could find some way to fix that. For example, at 32nd and Camelback, we had a major water leak, and it was amazing how quickly that was taken care of and repaired. No temporary patch, it's a permanent patch, and it's holding up very well. Finally, no one likes to say it out loud, but there are some individuals that are homeless by choice. Homeless needing help are being served by the Misdemeanor Repeat Offender Program, MROP, and those willing to follow the rules of the society are helped by the program, as is our neighborhoods. And those not willing to follow the rules are also helped by MROP. Most of our neighborhoods do not have a homeless problem. We have a drug and alcohol problem. MROP works because the police and human services work together. We don't need an outside source. If I've learned nothing else trying to work with the homeless, I've learned that the last thing I need to do is enabling them by giving them food and money. Taking the program away or making the change that is proposed is wrong for the homeless and wrong for our neighborhoods. Thank you.
That is the final card we have. Does anyone else wish to fill out a card? Thank you all very much for your time, for helping us have a stronger city, and for all you do for our community.
Thank you, Jenny. We are working on the collaboration. We just passed some ordinance and we're not only within the city department, but it's also with our utilities and all the other companies and developers. So just to let you know, we have worked on that piece. But thank you for everybody coming. Appreciate all your comments, and see you at the next one.
You have been watching a community budget hearing held recently in Phoenix. For questions, comments, or ideas, please visit phoenix.gov or call 602-262-4800. You can also send feedback through social media by using #PhoenixBudget. This video can also be seen online at phoenix.gov/PHXTV or youtube.com /City of Phoenix AZ.